a session titled Social Impact. We are standing between you and the dinner. So we have you hostage, so you can't go too far. So what I thought I would do is give a little introduction and then have each speaker come and speak, and then we will open it up for questions from all of you. So I wanted to give a perspective to what do we mean by social impact. It has many different meanings depending on who you're talking to. So I just want to tell a short story and weave in the talks in the, within that story. So this is the story of a little boy who goes to buy ice cream in some small town America. And he goes to the shop and says, how much is an ice cream with chocolate topping? And the woman says, it's $1.50. So he says, how much is ice cream with nuts on it? And she says, $1.25. Then he thinks about it and says, how much is just ice cream? And then she says, it's $1. And then he thinks about it, and he says, okay, I'll take just the ice cream. By this time the waitress is getting a little irritated because this guy is wasting her time, 6-year-old kid. So she says, okay, she brings the ice cream and the guy empties his pocket. It's all 5 cents, 10 cents. He gets all the change together and gives her $1. And she just slaps the ice cream in front of him and going, man, what did I do to get this kind of a customer today? I'm not going to make any money off of him. So anyway, he eats the ice cream and he leaves. And when he leaves, when the waitress comes to his table, she just has tears in her eyes because on the table, in change, is 50 cents. So the guy was asking all these questions because he wants to make sure he has enough to leave as tip before he got what he wanted. So it's about, he's given up what he really wanted to make sure he shared with the waitress the tip. And I feel social impact is something like that. It's not about giving what's in excess. It's not about giving what you don't want, but it's about giving out of what is really meaningful to you. And I think we've put a group of people together here who kind of talk about what is social impact all about. There are 4 different aspects. I think the first one is, as I said, it's giving it all you have. And the second thing is that, we've been talking about role models. Someone said earlier that there are no role models. And I think for social impact to really happen, we need to redefine what role models are and find them from people around us and not just some world leader or not politician or not an actor. We should look for role models among ourselves. And also it's about bringing beauty into it. It's just not some drudgery work. There is a lot of way to bring beauty into it. And finally, the corporations are the new Medicis. If they don't participate, we can't have social impact that's really, really long-lasting and sustainable. So what I thought is I would have each one speak about that particular aspect. So first I'd like to invite Mabel to talk about what is it about giving it all, because she's somebody who exemplifies what I mean by giving it all. All yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to stand up because I think the women and girls that I'm going to talk about deserve respect. And what I'm going to talk about is marriage. It's such a happy word for me. A union, an alliance, 2 people who love each other, a party, family, friends. And when all of that is over the next day, there is happiness and stability, hopefully for the rest of your lives. However, that's not the reality for the 10 million girls who are getting married every year under the age of 18. Many of these girls as young as 13 or 14 years old, and far too many as young as only 8 or 9 or 10. For them, marriage is not a happy moment. It often comes unexpected and without any choice. They're forced to marry men who they've often never met before and who are normally twice their age. And the day typically ends with rape. And what happens then? Well, you know, they get pulled out of school if they were ever allowed to go to school, which means that the economic contributions they can make to their families and the societies will be reduced for the rest of their lives. So their main value becomes their fertility, and they're forced to show their fertility very quickly and by having many children. Now think of a tiny girl, 12 years old, giving birth to a baby. It's no surprise that the chances that you will die during pregnancy or childbirth are 5 times higher if you're 15 years or younger than if you're 20 or older. And their children themselves are much more likely to die in the first year of life or to be sick and ill during their lifespan. And then there's HIV. Because their husbands are often more sexually experienced and older and have been around, these girls can often not negotiate safe sex with their husbands. So the chances that these girls get HIV infected are twice as big as the girls who are not married but sexually active in their communities. And what about their happiness? Well, these girls end up living very powerless and isolated lives. Often they cannot even leave their house without the approval of their mother-in-law or their husband. In fact, domestic violence that was shown in India for girls who marry under the age of 18 is twice as high as domestic violence for girls who marry when they're 18 or older. So basically, child marriage means that these girls are denied of their freedoms and basically their future. That is, any meaningful choice that they can make about their own lives. But it is not just the girls who suffer, it's also their communities and their families. Because of the health consequences and the educational and the economic consequences, child marriage basically means that the poorest families and communities stay poor. So child marriage is not just a driver, but also a symptom of poverty. Now, why is this happening? And why is this happening on such an enormous scale? Think about it. Today, 25,000 young girls are getting married. And tomorrow, another 25,000 girls under the age of 18 will get married. And the day thereafter, and the day thereafter. Now, I think that parents all over the world want the best for their children. So how come that in places like Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia and the Middle East and Latin America, parents think that it is actually in the best interest of their girls and their families to marry these girls off at a very young age? I was in Ethiopia recently, and I met this girl who was 6 years old when she got married. Now, I have a daughter called Luana who turned 6 a few months ago. And I've been thinking, what could it be that would make my husband and me decide it's in the best interest of Luana and our family to marry her off tomorrow? And I think there are 3 key reasons. One is gender inequality. All over the world, there are still far too many cultures that consider girls and women inferior, as we all know. So it could be, if we were living in such a culture, that we thought it wasn't really a good investment to put our girl through education. And actually, we could think that it would be in the best interest of her to marry her off well. A second reason is economic. If we were living in India, for example, we might just be so poor that by marrying her off, we have one less mouth to feed, and we can give a little more food to the other siblings. Or, if we're lucky, we might even get a bridal prize. But But the most important reason seems to be tradition. We might decide to marry our daughter off at such a young age because that's the way in our community, in our society, we've been doing things. Generation after generation after generation. It could have to do with the fear of girls getting pregnant and having sexual experiences before they're married. There could be other reasons behind it. But the reality of the matter is, if we live in such a society where this is a common practice, we could end up, if Luana isn't married at the age of 15, that all people in the village consider her an outcast. Look at that girl, she isn't married yet. She might then never find a suitable husband. And they might then look at me and my husband thinking, ooh, these guys are strangers. Let's isolate them. They don't belong to us. Now, what can we do about this? Well, first of all, we need to start talking. Because talking about this will increase visibility. And once you have awareness about an issue, you can raise attention and then also the resources will follow. I would like to see that child marriage becomes as visible and as big a problem, a recognized problem, as some of the other challenges in the world. Malaria, female genital mutilation, etc., etc. And so it makes me wonder, why isn't it getting that attention in the 21st century? And I think it has to do with the fact that it is very sensitive and very difficult to talk about other people's culture and their traditions and their practices. Before you know it, we'll be accused of being cultural imperialists. Of course, it's much easier to build a school or to build a hospital. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against building schools and hospitals. To the contrary, I wish we would actually do more of that. But it can be very sensitive talking about the reasons why so many of these girls that I'm talking about today will never even go to those schools, or might not be allowed by their husbands once they're in childbirth to go and deliver their baby at those hospitals. But there's more than talk that we can do. There are very interesting programs on the grassroots. Not enough, but there is momentum picking up that help girls to stay in school, because it seems that keeping girls in school is the best protection against child marriage. And these are often reward programs where the family gets a goat if the girl stays in school until she's 16, or the girl gets something as cheap as just a uniform and some school materials, pencils and paper, which will not only allow her to stay in school, but will actually help to increase her value and her self-belief. These are very cheap interventions. And the most interesting work that I've seen so far is around community dialogue. Because that's what's needed if you want to create lasting change around changing social norms. You get the whole community to sit together under a tree, in a community center, what have you, and get them to talk about how come that so many girls in our village die at such a young age. How come we're still so poor? How come so many girls get fistula when they give birth? And you can't do that by imposing it from the outside, by saying, hey, what you guys are doing there is wrong. But if you can get the whole community to realize that it is in their collective interest to make this change, not just for these girls, but for all of us, that will help to create lasting change. And as I said, there are really interesting projects happening in this field. So, child marriage is a complex problem, and the solutions aren't easy either. But I don't think complexity can be an excuse to do nothing. We have to empower these girls, and we have to help change their communities. Because the beauty of this thing is, they call it the girl effect. Once you make sure that a girl doesn't marry before the age of 18, and that she can actually spend a good number of years in school, think what will happen. She will never allow her own daughters to get married before the age 18, and she will do anything she can to send her own daughters to school. So actually, change can happen in one generation. Now, I've been talking for about 10 minutes. In these 10 minutes, another 200 girls somewhere in the world were married before the age of 18. I would like to encourage you, please start talking about this hidden issue. Help to give it the visibility that it deserves. We owe it to those 200 girls. Let's make sure that we give them a future. Thank you very much.
So I think what we've learned from the talk is about social impact. It's just not a nice to do thing. I mean, for us to exist as a community together, it's almost a must do. And one of the things that strikes me is that poverty, really economic inequality, is the root cause of just about every problem we have. Whether it is child marriage or terrorism, I mean, they all start from economic inequality. So I think it'd be very interesting to see how can we bring economic empowerment to people, and especially those who have an amazing art or craft but really don't know what to do. So I would like to invite Andrea to share her story about what she's doing about it.
Hello. So, well, thank you very much that you're still here and with us, although it's late. And thank you very much, Mabel, for this touching talk. And it's very difficult to bring something afterwards, I think, because I'm very touched. But I want to tell you a story. And tomorrow there's a panel about storytelling and the power of storytelling, and I very much believe in it. And this is the story of Avery. And I want you to join me to walk the hidden path and to discover the magic and the fascination of the cultures that are not obvious in our ways. The claim of Avery is beyond fashion, and what we understand with it is outside the limits of fashion, which is the latest style. So what we want to communicate is sustainability and the richness of originality and uniqueness. And in the UNESCO declaration, it said cultural diversity is as necessary for human mankind as biodiversity. And with the loss of cultural diversity, we lose a lot of knowledge and wisdom that we need to develop our societies. So we really believe that it's very important to save this wisdom and this knowledge. And so for us, cultural handicrafts and what they know is their cultural capital. And what's happening at the moment is that this cultural capital is actually getting lost. And with this loss, they lose also their identity and more or less also their future, because if they lose their identity, they lose their self-confidence and they lose their dignity, and then they get dependent on funding and they lose everything. And with this loss of cultural values, also, well, I'm working in Morocco, so there is still a quote of illiteracy of 50%. So yeah, you wouldn't believe it because it's so close to Europe, and Morocco is actually supposed to be a very open and developed country for the African continent, but it still has one of the highest illiteracy rates with women. So we want to tackle these both issues, and we developed a model with the experts of the Club of Marrakesh, and we sit together and talked about social business, social entrepreneurship, and how we can define a process that actually activates the potential that we have in these societies. Because we don't use it. There is so much richness around that is just not used. And the idea is that they have assets, and their assets are their cultural handicrafts, manufacture, and their traditions also. Rituals, fairy tales, and so on. And our assets are, we have market access, we know marketing, we know how to make products, and we know the customer, we know what they want. So actually, why don't we just work together in collaboration? And for us, collaboration means talk to people. And this is something Mabel said as well. It's very important that you involve them and building trust. So I'm working with these people now for 2 years, and it took 1 year actually till I saw the first woman in these villages. So the first negotiations were only with men, because they wanted to check, is this okay? What is she doing? So you go there, you drive there with your car, you're well dressed, you have a translator, and you tell them, be proud of your culture. And they're looking at you and saying, okay, you have a car, actually seems like you're quite educated, and you telling us that we have something that you want from us? We are dumb, or we didn't have education, we are dirty, why do you, what do you tell us? And so this was a quite interesting and long process, bringing these people believing in themselves. And this was quite interesting for me as well. And the next thing is respect and involvement. I think you really have to build connection, and so that the people realize that you're taking them serious. And I told it before, above all, it's about reviving their dignity and self-confidence, because if they are self-confident, again, there's so much activity that they start by themselves. You just have to actually give them they don't need money. That's what my experience is. They just need somebody to tell them how they can do it and push them a little bit, but then there is a lot of potential that actually can come up by themselves. And now I want to introduce you the project that we actually just set up. It's the Avery Berber bags. And it's about these old bags. I have one here. And this handicraft of embroidery is getting lost. So before, the women and men in the villages, they produced these bags, and they used them actually by themselves. They were produced for men, so they're actually men's bags. And for the last years, a woman is paid about 8 euros for one bag, but she needs about 7 days. And even in Morocco, 8 euros for a week's wage is not enough. And this is why the young girls, they don't learn it anymore, how to do it. So we actually found 4 old women who still know how to do it. And with them, we're just setting up a new thing that I'm just talking about. And the other thing in a culture that is important is stories and fairy tales, and they're getting lost as well. This has two reasons. One reason is that many people are actually moving to the city, so there's nobody who's telling these stories. The second thing is, with electrification, TV is also going into these villages, and the parents, they don't tell the stories anymore. And with these stories, a lot of values are getting lost. And also in our society, many stories are getting lost. And I think it's very important and to keep these values and these ideas behind. So what we did is, we have a storyteller who actually went to the villages, collected these old stories, wrote them down and translated them, and we found some old bags, and with this we have unique original products, and they're actually ambassadors of their culture. And we sell them, and with the money we are creating sewing schools. And it takes about 10 weeks to educate them how to do it. And after 10 weeks, they pass a test. And when they pass a test, we take them in our production. And this is a pair of teachers, for example. And this is a first school we built. And for us, it's very important to have local ownership. So they actually build them by themselves. So we help them to get microfinance and help them how to build it and gave them advice. But it's their own thing. They can be proud of it, and they look after it, and it's theirs. And so now this process has been done, and we have the first 2 schools opened, and the first 40 girls that learning this embroidery again. And now what we do with the new production, because doing the old stuff is probably not useful for our market. So what we want to do is a fusion of tradition and modernity. And we have a French designer, and he designed a first product, which is an iPad bag. And I have them here. This is the first prototype. So it's all handmade. There is, and it's the traditional patterns, and they do it in the villages, and you have your iPad bag, or like this. Do it in different colors, and we'll do clutches again also next year. And so we're developing this craftsmanship to a new level. And then we don't only give them the possibility of owning a fair salary, but also we share the profits. So 50% of the profits are going back again to the villages to build schools or wells or whatsoever, what they need. We develop it with them together, and we talked about this model with them so that they understand it's not a funding. They actually worked for it. It's what they did with their hands. And I think this is very important, that they know that with their tradition they can earn money and actually make their own living again. Then we very much believe in storytelling and in marketing. And I'm coming from this business, marketing, and so we try to build it up as a brand, as a consumer brand, like everything else. It's not a third world help project, it's a luxury good. And because it's handmade, it's unique, so with each bag you actually, it's a statement. And so we think this has to be valued. So this is our website, we have a web shop, and when you actually buy a Berber bag, so you get the booklet and you get a handwritten card, you get the fairy tale, and you get your bag. So you really dive into this culture, you can experience it, you get the little details, and this is what I actually want to achieve, make people curious, make them see how precious these cultures are. And as we don't do classical advertising, we work, for example, with ambassadors. And one of the ambassadors is Jana Palaske, a German actress. And she visited us in the school, and she learned sewing with one of the ladies. And she's really passionate, and she takes the Berber bag on the red carpet. So this was at the Echo in 2011, and we had some nice press. And so this is how we actually work. And this was not for DLD or anything, but in the actual InStyle, we have a placement of the Berber bag in this hippie series that they did. And finally, I want to just say that we want to bring up a statement for a new kind of luxury. A luxury that is sustainable and immaterial. And a luxury that is value-orientated and authentic. And finally, this is one of the classes. And I have to say, we started in 2 communities, and we asked, well, who wants to join? And we were actually overwhelmed. In one day, 80 girls and women applied to be part of the school. And to be honest, this was surprising, a positive surprise, but a little bit too much. And that is why we set up with our foundation a Patenschaftsprogramm. So I want to, well, ask you and everybody to communicate this and join the program for the 10 weeks is 200 euros, and the whole apprenticeship is paid. And so we do Patenschaften, and if you join this program, you get from your sewer the development. We send you things, letters from the first week and for the 5th week, so that you can actually follow how they progress. And it would be great if some of you would join. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So continuing on doing things with style and substance, our next speaker's face has graced just about every fashion magazine you can think of, and she's on a journey now to do fashion for development. You know, what does that look like? With that, Bibi. Yeah, sure. It's up to you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Hello, everyone. I want to tell you a little story. Actually, I was born in Bangladesh. My childhood was in Bangladesh. Then I went to Europe to study. But, being grown up in a country, I don't know whether you know the real grand India history. Bengal was very full of culture, full of music, full of art, full of hand-woven things. We have a piece of fabric called muslin. Every museum they have. They did it in 13th century, but after the British went away, they didn't do anything. So if they could make 13th century a history, made such a fine fabric, which could go in one matchbox, 1 meter. So growing up in a country, I knew we have poverty, but I didn't only see the poverty. I saw there is a beauty. There is wonderful things these people could do. I was brought up in a privileged family, so I had drawing pencil, everything. But when I went to the village or someone came at home selling something, I saw them doing beautiful color combination with gamcha, sarong, saris. And I used to tell them, I have better pencil, I went to school, but you can do better things. But I always thought they had IQ. They have 2 eyes like 2 stars. So I went to Europe to study. But your childhood is very important. And your home education is a very important thing. So my parents not only let me see the poverty, they let me hear the music. You see, the 4 Nobel Prize winner, Lakshmi will tell, it's the first is Tagore, which is 150 years of Tagore's birth anniversary. Whole world is celebrating it. He's Bengali. Amartya Sen is Bengali. Mother Teresa is from Bengal. And now Professor Yunus, he's also Bengali. So Bengal is not only poverty, there is something.
Don't forget Amartya Sen.
Amartya Sen is Bengal. Yes, I said Amartya Sen. How could I not remember Amartya Sen? He's the one taught me how to use human resources. So I went to study, but I came back. And I want to say, Mabel, that what is the most important thing? Now, because I work a lot in India, a lot in Bangladesh, Latin America, Southeast Asia. India and Bangladesh, and even Sri Lanka, our government have a rule, law. You cannot have child marriage under 18. But that doesn't go to the village people. Why? Why they have the people, young girl married? Because, the village people, they have children for an earning source, you know. That I knew, being a Bengali girl. When I came back to Bangladesh 15 years ago, and I learned many things. I'm trained by the European. I went to a fashion school, worked with every top designer. Also, I learned the technique, traveling throughout the world. I learned the culture. So when I went back, I realized one thing is that, you know, usually they put their hand like this. Like if I say, oh, I don't have money, you will give me €1. I finish, I put my hand again, you give me another euro. But I thought that has to be stopped because they have incredible skill. Only thing lacking was they are poor, but you have to give them confidence. Don't take away human dignity from them. That is very important. Respect them. So once, you know, in 15 years, I'm not working in Bangladesh. I worked in Africa, I work in Latin America. I'm a spokesperson for a sustainable income for the craftspeople. I notice everyone who passed the poverty margin, when they have 3 times meal and they have a shelter, they think like you and me. They want to have their children to have a better education. No one wants their children to go to work because they do it for the desperation and for earning. And when they send their children, now it's India, Lakshmi will say to me, because I work very remote area, I go and work in an area where most of the time there is not modern communication. I know when they send their children for school, like school is free, primary school is free in India, free in Bangladesh too. But the children has to spend 4 hours in the school. Schooling is free, but Bangladesh has 5 seasons, India too. I mean, look at it. I think Munich is hotter than Bangladesh. I just arrived. Everything is changing. So they need a little umbrella. They need a shoe. They need some bags for the rainy season to take their books. The parents realize that sending school, they need to, you know, they need to earn. Standard of living is high. You know, people who are used to have 6 children, now they're having 3. They know they can take care better, like me. We are 5 brothers and sisters, but when I have children, I only had 2 because I know I don't have time like my parents. Now the modern mothers, families, they don't have more than 2 or 3. But one thing I want to tell you, I'm working very long hour. There is a lady sitting here who made a film, who had a biggest review all over the world, German film. I tell you, end of the day, my mental satisfaction is here. If I sleep 2 hours, I don't need to take a sleeping tablet to see. And I wait for the next morning. That a little bit of confidence you give them, don't take away human dignity. That's the most important thing in the world. Even I work for a lot for HIV positive. And that is also Southeast Asia, like Cambodia, India, Bangladesh. And I want to tell you the story, what she was saying. I have a story too. In Bangladesh, when a woman, usually they find out village, I'm always talking about village women, if they have HIV positive or not when they are pregnant. You know, they go to the doctor because sex and showing a doctor, they don't do it, village people. So when they find out they have HIV positive or AIDS, they never check the man. Could be the man is the carrier. In the village, you know that Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, a lot of village people go to Middle East or Europe, they come to do labor work, but they never check, you know. Then they throw the woman away. And I am fighting this, the carrier could be the man. So this is one point, is very important, but it's very touchy point because government sector and the families, they don't want people to know. But we are, you know, all these electronic medias, I know We are talking about IT and everything today. But they are only getting that for 40% people like you and me who lives in the village. None of the information going in the villages. Why? Why the IT is not booming for the village people? Main reason is education. Education and health. All my work is to make a sustainable income, better livelihood for next generation of craftspeople. They are educated. When you are educated, you are more aware of this thing. You are more aware of health. You are more aware of other things. So today, all I want to say, and I have a last thing, I have a slogan, fashion for development. I don't know what you think of fashion. For me, it's a culture, it's a necessity. Necessity goes before. Look at me, I came from Bangladesh. I got into a plane, thank for DLD organization. They put me in a hotel, they bring me here. There are so many things to eat. But could I come naked? No. Every profession, everyone needs a piece of cloth to cover yourself. That is what making social economical development. All the countries we are talking about poverty, they have incredible skill to make beautiful things by hand. So, piece of fabric is a number one essential, because sometimes I could stay without eating one day. I cannot stay without clothes one day. Even Bangladesh, they will arrest you. So fashion can really make a social economical development. And it's very, very important that, you know, today's world, everyone is eating organic food, natural thing. You cannot smoke, you cannot do. We are sitting with all nature. We need a chance to come out. I believe in competition. I grew up in Europe, so I know competition is very important. But one thing I don't believe is charity. Charity is killing us, because you feel Bibi is from Bangladesh, I feel sorry I buy this thing. No, I can compete. So give them a chance, don't take away human dignity. You will see in 5 years what the social impact has in the villages. Absolutely. I come from a country last 20 years ruled by 2 women. Show me another country where 2 women, one is prime minister, one is opposition leader. So it's changing. Village women are changing. Just give them a little bit of chance. Thank you very much.
So when the ruling party and the opposition are women, you win either way. So, you know, our last speaker is somebody who's going to talk about a very important aspect of social impact, which is that the corporations are the new Medicis. So unless they step in, we can't have social impact in the long term. And it's not about just having a little department called CSR and doing some things, but it's really about integrating social impact into your innovation, into products. So I would like to invite Michaela to talk about how DHL is doing that.
Those are the disaster response teams of DHL, which are part of the corporate social responsibility program from DHL, which is grouped into 3 different programs. We have the Go Green, the Go Teach, and the Go Help programs, or delivering help, and the Go Help is the program we are talking about. And I brought you an interview with one of the colleagues who is working with the disaster response team in Asia. So we have 3, one in the Middle East, one in the Americas, and one in Asia. She's a Singaporean, and Shinta, she is a member there in the disaster response team, leading the warehousing management at the airport. In her original life, so normally she is working as a program manager, so IT operations. But then when a disaster is coming up, she's one of the 300 volunteers taking part in the teams. And I just brought now 2 parts of the interview to show you, where she describes how she feels as a woman when she is helping in Pakistan, for example, or in those countries where the disaster happens. And why did she join the disaster response team? That was because of the disaster happened, the tsunami in Bangkok in Indonesia, which affected herself as well. And after that she said, I would like to help when I'm older and when I can do it. And that's when she started. Film up, please. Oh, that's...
To be completely honest, I've never felt really threatened during the whole 10 days that I was there. So first, I know that I've always had a really good team and good people around me. I know that DHL is taking care of me, as well as also even the locals, like the workers that I'm working with. Yes, maybe sometimes, when you ask the people from the Army or the Air Force to do a certain test, because you're a woman, they're less receptive. However, they wouldn't really harass you or anything. They're actually very, very nice people. Of course, as long as you're respectful to the culture, so they will always be open. So keep smiling and being nice, and I think when you give the positive energy to them, I believe that they also give the positive energy back. Yes, I do get a lot of stares or attention, so however, I believe this is not only the fact that I was a woman, however, it is also the fact that I was different. I look different, I talk different, and my colleagues, a German male, is also get the same type of stares or attention, but however, I don't really believe that it is solely because that I'm a woman that I get actually more attention or stares than others.
And then resting topic with that is that we have a lot of women in disaster response teams. So it's not that we have just, let's say, 2 in one team. They are nearly half women, half men, which is quite interesting. So I just got that when I prepared this presentation, there was, wow, I haven't known about that. I would have thought it's more man-leaded, but it's not. As I'm from the DHL Solutions and Innovations department in Deutsche Post DHL, the innovator for DHL, I brought you something we did on innovations for the disaster response team. So innovations meet the Go Help program, and this was an idea from one of the team members of the disaster response team. And we'll just show you that it's not, innovation does not always have to be high-tech technology. It's not always about new technology, about new developments. It can be a redevelopment also. So it can be simple. So simplicity can be highly effective. And this is also our speedball, which is an example we are using with the disaster response team. You have seen it in the film as well. It's the former letter mail sacks where we have put in the letter mails for the transport in the airplanes. And it's hard elastic material outside. And what we did now with the disaster response team, we have cushioned it with a mattress, and we have pulled all the other needed goods in the middle of it, and now we have closed it, and we can pull it out of the helicopters to the people so that they get the support they need. And it's a simple and really a good innovation without any technology effort behind it. And that's what I just wanted to show you. Innovations can be simple. Thank you very much for your attention.
I think what's also great about it is that corporations lose it. I mean, really, when the employees lose touch with the end users. I think when you forget who you're serving or who you're connecting to, you just lose it. So I think it's really great that at a corporation they're creating that connection between the employees and who they're serving. So I'd like to actually open it up to the audience for a couple of questions. We have a few minutes left before I wrap up. Sunny.
My name is Sunny Bates. I enjoyed everyone's talk. It was the DHL. You did more in that 30 seconds as far as an ad for me. I will be a DHL user forever now because of, for me, truly, it was really moving. You had me in tears. I was curious. I was looking at the website when you were talking about the Aubrey bags that are very beautiful. So each one is individual, and you are selling them on the site. Each one is literally a work of art.
Yes. Hello? Yeah. Yes, these are the old bags. They're between 20 and 80 years old, and each of them is different. They're all unique and yeah, original. There's no double.
Very interesting. And with you, I wasn't entirely sure. You were talking about fashion as being a leader and reading about your bio. Are you developing fashion items that we could find or we could support in some way?
Yes. Actually, basically, I'm a designer. I do a line twice a year, spring, summer, autumn, winter, but mainstream fashion week. But everything, even what I'm wearing, everything handmade. Fabrics are made by the, weavers and all accessories. Not yet in Germany, but soon. But, I'm still doing a lot of research. So, once you are in the market, so there is not complaint. And one is the biggest problem of the crafts, like we did 13th century, and now still we are suffering. So I want to make, I believe in sustainable income, better livelihood. So once I'm ready, so you don't say, I know, living in Europe, I know, they say color runs, the quality is not, all these things I'm taking care. Just cross your fingers and pray. You will be seeing in Germany soon, but it's in Spain, it's in France, it's in England, Japan,
Put it on the web for those of us who don't live in Europe.
I'm not so, no, I'm not so smart like...
No, I just wanted to say, sorry, that, also here we believe in collaboration, and obviously we talk to each other and we try to do something together.
Hi, I had a question for you on the child marriage situation. Is there anything like Donors Choose or sites where you can actually sponsor girls in particular to go to school? So you could say, I'll, adopt 5 girls and send them through school, and the deal is my money has to go to them.
Yes, there definitely are. There are organizations that are doing amazing grassroots work in helping to keep girls in schools and make sure that that's financially possible for the girls and for their families. And I would be very happy to give you a list of some of them afterwards. There also, I spoke a little bit about this issue of community dialogue that helps to create lasting social change. And there's very interesting pioneering work in that field. And if you're interested in kind of being a visionary and help to create this next wave of change in development, because I do think in development we'll go to a stage where we will realize just doing 8 projects isn't good enough. We, in a non-paternalistic way, need to help people also to reconsider some of their traditions, etc. Then there's some interesting work. So again, I would be very happy to share suggestions with you.
Last question. What happened to the back row? Only the front row is asking questions.
So, one small part question, small part question for Avuri, and that is once again, do you guys work with something like Donors Choose and kiva.org to see if you can get some of the students sponsored?
Well, we work in Germany with Better Place, or we haven't started, but we're just negotiating. And in Morocco, we're working with actually a local NGO who is helping us getting all the contacts and also organizing these kind of things, because it's very important to, well, the bureaucracy parts are sometimes quite difficult, so they're actually helping us.
The thing is, with Donors Choose and with kiva.org, you probably don't have to do anything. It just needs to be one coordinating person.
Yeah.
And who can give the names of the students who can be sponsored.
Okay.
That's one thing. And the second small question is about, there's a similar initiative going on in some rural parts of India of reviving crafts through, just sponsoring some of the local artisans. And I was wondering if I might be able to, you might be able to share some of your presentation.
With great pleasure.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, time to wrap up. So I want to just say that, one of the things I've learned all these years, and it's reiterated here, is that, social impact is a journey. It's not, it's not something you can achieve overnight. We need to have the patience to go through with it. And one of the things that's extremely important is to understand the other's point of view. It's always, actually arranged marriages, not in the way you talked about it, but this is a constant form of, chat between my friends and me. And when I lived in US, I was thinking, my God, how can you ever marry somebody you don't know? Blah, blah, blah. And then I see a lot of my friends very happy marrying somebody they didn't know, and many people who knew somebody for 10 years and be unhappy the moment they marry them. So I think it's important to look at the other person's perspective before we judge them, because there is no right answer, actually. And some of the Indian women I talk to when I go there, they say, it's so sad. I look at America and they have to date so many people, sleep with so many people before they find the right one, and they still may not be able to find it. So they feel sorry for the West, and West people feel sorry for the East. So in a big mess, we're all feeling sorry for each other. So I think it's really important to understand other person's point of view. And yes, we all live in a world filled with problems, but what makes me happy at the end of this session is that everyone is working on a solution. No one left it with, oh, here is a big problem. Yes, we all know these things happen, but each of them is doing something about it, and that's what gives me a lot of hope. And finally, there is a lot of young economies there. I don't like calling it the emerging world or the developing world. It's the young economies. They're learning, all the problems that they have, whether it's India or China or Cambodia or Brazil or the Middle East. These are teething problems. And I think if we have the right intervention in the right way and start a dialogue, I think we have a lot to achieve. So I'd like to end it with, as usual, another story, which is this is a story of an elephant, and some of my friends here probably heard it. This is the story of an elephant who's caught and brought to the zoo. And when it was brought to the zoo, it was this small, and the pole to which it was tied was huge, and the chain was this thick. So the elephant tried on day 1, nothing happened. Day 2, it tried to escape, nothing happened. Day 3, it tried to escape, nothing happened. After about a dozen days, it just gave up. So fast forward a few years, this little boy is visiting the zoo, and then he asked the zookeeper, why is the elephant so sad? And the zookeeper says, oh, because the elephant has been trying to run away and it can't run away. And the boy is like perplexed. He goes, there's not even a fence, and the elephant is huge, and now the pole is yay big, and the thin is yay small compared to the size of the elephant. If it really wants, all it needs to do is yank its head once and it would be free. And the zookeeper says, but the elephant only remembers what happened to it when it was a kid, so it still believes that it can't set itself free. So I think I'd like to wrap up with saying that we need new role models, and we need people who set themselves free, and we have it in all of us, so we don't need to look too far. We have a few in the audience, we have a few on the stage, and there are many more outside. So I invite all of you to look for new role models and make them extremely successful and economically sustainable, and that's how we make social impact happen. I really want to thank every one of you for speaking from your heart. Thanks.